Senator Sullivan.
That's great. Thank you very much, Sachin. Thank you all for the kind welcome, and it's wonderful to see my fellow Milwaukee County Democrats. So thank you guys for coming out in the cold here. Many of you know me. We have been acquainted over the years. I have been the state senator for Milwaukee, West Dallas, Wauwatosa, and one thing I can say that changes in this race, no longer Elm Grove and Brookfield, bye-bye Elm Grove and Brookfield Republicans, but nonetheless, my background here in this community goes back to my childhood. I grew up in a family headed by a public servant, headed by a military officer. My father, Jim Sullivan, used to be the commanding officer for the Coast Guard on Lake Michigan in the early 80s. We retired here. My dad retired here. My mom worked as a hostess in Jack Pandle's restaurant for 22 years, and they finished their career. My father at UWM and my mom over at Villa Terrace. And I think that background, that familiarity with the community, the experience with work, has mattered. I think some of you know me going back to years ago. I was the 5th Congressional District Democratic Chair. I worked on campaigns. I helped to stuff envelopes. In 1992, I worked on the early stages of that Russ Feingold campaign. I came back. I put myself through law school here in Milwaukee. I had the good fortune to be able to serve in the city council in Wauwatosa, and I learned about the challenges of balancing a budget and working in order to better that community, working with our labor organizations, and that was something that I took very much to heart because it was in keeping with my own experience and my family background in public service. I also served 8 years in the Navy Reserves. I was a bosun mate. I was the guy that pushed the mop. I was the guy who helped put the food out there when it came chow time. I was serving in the National War College down in Louisiana. Was never deployed overseas, but I did help in order with the deployment of our members who did go overseas, and I was very proud to have that service. After 6 years in City Council, I was elected to the State Senate. And that was a tremendous experience in one person. And I do thank Chris for his support in that race that enabled me to be able to go out and fight for all of you. I thank Chris for his support in that race, many of you for your support in that race. And it's something where we have been able to pull together, and we got to really accomplish some great things. Obviously, 2010 did not go as well as we might have liked to have seen it go. My race was, in the end, 48-52. 48-52 in a district that had been drawn by Republicans in order to make sure it was a safe Republican district. You know what? I won the Milwaukee County portion of the district. I mentioned a little tongue-in-cheek, Elm Grove and Brookfield was just a little corner of the district, but it's 70-30 Republican. And that is the risk that we see right now as they are about to, again, redraw these maps. But you know what? Politics is a renewing process. And as much as things may end up going badly, this gives us an opportunity in a race like this, in the cold of winter, for us to be able to pick ourselves up, brush ourselves off. And you can do a couple of things here. You can curl up in the fetal position and try and strike a better deal with Republican majorities. You can sit there and say, let's try and find some kind of a way to make things maybe not all that terribly bad. We've got Jeff Stone, who's running for this race, who said, I'm going to continue the policies of Scott Walker. And I look at that, I'm like, here's what brings me into this race. Not only that tradition of public service, but what brings me into this race is just the abject decay and neglect that we have seen in this county over the years. And I feel that right now there's this self-fulfilling prophecy by which this vehicle of county government was driven into a wall, and now we have some in our community who are saying, look, it's broken. Of course it's broken. It's broken because we didn't have people of good faith to come together and try and seek solutions. There are key functions here: behavioral health, transportation, parks and infrastructure, courts and the juvenile system. We do not want to piecemeal these out to other different entities. We don't want more government. You don't want to the point when you hear the Republicans say less government. How about efficient government? How about we don't have 6, 7, or 8 different unelected taxing authorities between us and the provision of service? How about we get ourselves to the point where we end the war against our working families so we no longer have privatization left and right? We've got one guy in Milwaukee County who's responsible for paying painting the entire park system. What that means is that you end up either not having it done, or you end up having this stuff farmed out to a contractor where it's done for 2 and 3 times the cost. Milwaukee County has serious problems, but when I started looking at doing this race, I said, you know what? These are human problems. These are problems of neglect. These are problems of decay. And I know that we as Democrats, we must come together in this time period, not only to fix the problems in Milwaukee County, but frankly, one of the reasons why I chose to run in this dark hour is because we need a Democrat. We need somebody who believes in labor. We need somebody who's capital D, who's going to say, right now, we're going to get this done in Milwaukee County. We are going to hold someone like Scott Walker responsible for the failures of his administration and the neglect that went on here for eight years. And we're going to get the job done here at home. Because you know what? That breathes new life into us as an organization. This helps to lead the way forward for Democrats and progressives across the state. And it's something that I know I can help to bring to the table. And with your help, I will. And thank you very much. I do want to just say before I take questions, there is also a website. It is sullivanformilwaukee.com. And where is Corey? Corey, can you wave? Corey's back there. Corey is my campaign manager. Corey's got some information back there for anybody who's interested. We are in the Blue Mountain Road office across the street from the Milwaukee County Zoo. And mine is a grassroots campaign, guys. I need your help. There is 3 weeks until from tomorrow to this primary. And I hope that you get out and vote, and we'll take some questions. Thanks.
Thanks so much. So, same question we heard. One is, will you support the half-cent sales tax that voters approved for public transit and for property tax relief?
Yes. And I believe that I am the only candidate in this race who is saying that that is something that needs to be done. We have to be able to rely on that transit system. Our businesses need that in order to have access to workers. Transit gets you back and forth to work. I know it's a yes or no answer question, but I also want people to know that when we did the candidate forum the other day at Marquette Law School, I took the bus down there with my staff, and I'm proud of that.
Will you support a resolution that requires the county to lobby our congressional delegation to eliminate military spending in Iraq and Afghanistan and use the money to meet domestic needs?
Yeah, clearly, we have seen over the years an abandonment of a lot of the social contract that has kept us safe. You cannot say, I cannot say, as the child of a military family and as a military veteran myself, that we're going to end military spending. But what we need to be able to do is we need to be able to look to whoever's going to be the Milwaukee County Executive and say, let's not lose an opportunity here. Let's make sure that we have somebody who can be a voice for these democratic and progressive causes, who can show that we can manage ourselves successfully in our key programming here, and who absolutely will be an advocate for those kinds of progressive causes, whether those are international, whether we're talking about the environment, whether we're talking about justice for working people, for women, and for the LGBT community. We haven't had that in Milwaukee County. We had somebody who was kicking us in the teeth for 8 years, and before then we just basically, we need to have somebody who can help to advance those issues, and I absolutely will be, particularly as somebody who I helped to do the deployment for my shipmates who were going overseas. I have good friends who I served with in the reserves who have gone once, twice. They're being asked to continue to bear that burden, and I know what that is about, and I will certainly be an advocate for those issues.
Thank you. And then the third question is, parts of Milwaukee County have infant mortality rates reportedly as bad as sub-Saharan Africa. How will you address the health crisis in Milwaukee County?
All right, thank you for that question as well. It's not just an infant mortality rate that is atrocious. It is also, I remember years ago seeing a retrospective 20 years, or it was 10 years after the fall of apartheid in South Africa, and talking about the employment levels in Soweto and how they remain unacceptably high. They were essentially better than the unemployment levels for African American male wage earners of prime wage earning age in Milwaukee County, in the north side of Milwaukee. And that's something that ought to be unacceptable to all of us. In terms of this specific question dealing with the issue of infant mortality, look, I was raised in a family where it was just part of our faith tradition, something that Hubert Humphrey once said, that the moral quality of government is judged based on how we treat those in the shadow of life, those who are the sick, the infirm, and the handicapped. And I think that that is a moral obligation for all of us. I am delighted that we have had the federal health care program passed under Barack Obama. I am delighted that, that here in Milwaukee County, that we, not in Milwaukee County, but in the state of Wisconsin, that we had led the way in the state Senate, helping to pass a comprehensive health care program for everyone. And I think that what you've got to have is you've got to have that community-based health centers. You have to make sure that we fight this Republican plan to try and repeal these advances. And I think that not only employment, but also the health issue and infant mortality in our county is unacceptable.
Two more questions from the public here. You had your hand up first. Yep.
What can the county do about the redistricting that's bound to come because of the census and the Republicans are in control now at the state?
Organize, organize, organize. Look, my race, and this is one thing where this took a gut check for me, guys, for me to get into this race after November. This was not easy in order to do so, and I took the counsel of a number of very good people around me. Many people were asking me to get into this race, and they said, well, how is it that you ended up losing this race as it went? Look, it was 48-52. I mean, we ran a very good race. We won the Milwaukee County portion of this district. 30,528 people in Milwaukee, West Milwaukee, West Dallas, and Wauwatosa voted for me. But this race, make no mistake, my 2010 race was won by the Republicans 10 years ago when they drew the map. And unfortunately, with neither house in Democratic control, with Scott Walker in the governor's mansion, this is very limited what we can do. They're going to go after our people who are good at drawing these maps. They're going to go after Fred Kessler. They're going to go after swing Democratic seats. It is not in keeping with the basic Jeffersonian tradition of our nation that we ought to be drawing these districts so that they're competitive because our ideas will win. But what you need to do is you need to buckle down in a race like this and say, we're not going to just sit here and say, please stop kicking me. We're going to go after these people and we're going to hold them accountable.
One more question? Okay.
Who are you and what are you running for?
I am Jim Sullivan and I am running for county executive. Thank you very much.